guys for joining me out here today and hosting me on your boat. And I'm really looking forward to talking with you about the services that you offer on your boat.
A pleasure.
So to introduce yourself, Dave, what's your last name?
Bishop.
Bishop, and you are?
I am the founder, CEO of Warriors Code Fishing.
And you are?
I'm Thomas Edwards, and I am the fishing manager of fishing operations.
Great. And the cameraman, Mr. John.
Hi, I'm John Gilbert. I'm the chairman of the board of Warriors Code Fishing, really just sort of the business side of things to David's amazing organization here. And so we're just, melding Tom's fishing encyclopedia brain together with David's mission, and it's turning into a nice little project for us.
It certainly is. I feel like it definitely is. Can you tell me what inspired you? Why would you pick something like fishing and Warriors? Can you kind of connect the dots for us?
Absolutely. I grew up with a mindset of service. That's the only goals for my professional life was be a soldier and be a police officer. And I accomplished both. And I loved the aspect. I loved the job. I loved being a soldier, being overseas, and protecting freedoms and all that great stuff that we did. And then being a police officer, putting those military skills to work back home and really just getting out in my community, I enjoyed it. What I didn't do was take care of my mental well-being with all the tragedies that I was seeing and experiencing as a military service member overseas, witnessing the very beginning of the war when I was deployed in early 2002, and just seeing a lot of what was happening to the civilian population. And it's so easy to separate yourself from the tragedies happening around you and saying, it doesn't affect me, it's not part of me. And I really compartmentalized a lot of what I experienced and what happened over there. And then I come home, now already having compartmentalized a lot of trauma. Did not take care of myself. Military didn't take care of me. It was just, as it is for our service members, thank you, sign on the line and send you home. And, back in the day, our military members had these large ships. In World War II, they experienced some of the most intense combat fighting, but on the way home, they had each other where they could talk about their friends that they lost, and they could talk about the camaraderie and the things, and they really got to decompress a lot and talk about their trauma. Whereas today's military, you could go from the front line and in 2 days you're back home, flying on a plane, and you've decompressed nothing, and you have all that trauma response and threat assessing, and you're back home already. So I think people really take for granted the brotherhood aspect of trauma bonding and really helping other people through their own trauma with your own. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Your understanding of it is helping someone else.
Absolutely. And that trauma bonding, I think, is one of the best ways to help somebody through a hard time like PTSD. Military, just, it's more of the same. A lot of horrible things happening to a lot of good people. Not taking care of my own mental well-being and talking about some of the tragedies that I experienced and the shootings and things that I went through. And it unfortunately put me in a really bad place. And it just, although I remember the day I first thought I might have PTSD, a lot of times it's just a very slow change, and you don't recognize the fact that you're going down that dark road until sometimes it's too late. And unfortunately, I almost lost my life to suicide because of PTSD. I went down I walked away from my wife. I walked away from my two beautiful daughters. I blamed everybody for everything that was happening around me. I was so angry and just violent and unsafe. And it took other warriors, other members of my tribe to bring me back and help me realize that, I have a lot to live for, that I haven't really damaged the bridges that I felt that I have. And, unfortunately, PTSD and your mindset, it's very easy to isolate yourself and say that the damage you've done is too great, you can't overcome it. And it's important to come amongst other warriors who can say, no, man, that's not the case. Or we can help each other get out of here. Look at what we've accomplished. You come with us and we'll help you out. And really, that's what I'm hoping for Warriors Code is to, one, just be there for anybody, and hopefully through making connections with people, they'll help identify somebody who might need to talk to somebody else who has PTS, who can give them the resources that help them find their way. And it's not just some person sitting behind a desk with a computer really not listening to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's our long explanation.
Great. So they definitely get some camaraderie whenever they hop on your boat. And what about like the fishing? How does that play into their wellness?
Yeah, so definitely camaraderie. You know, really each person is different. Some people just want to come on the boat and they don't want to have a lot of communication. They just want to be in a space with somebody where it's safe and not talk at all. And I respect that. The fishing is great. When it comes to first responders, firefighters, EMS, and veterans, and even nurses, you're constantly having to worry about your surroundings. You're constantly having to worry about what's happening in front of me, behind me, to the side of me. You know, I'm listening to my radio, anything to keep you safe and get you home at the end of the day. Those things you just don't get to turn off. When you come out on the water and you throw that line out, you're forced to focus on what's going on in front of you. You know, when someone's telling you, hey, I want you to drag this lure on the bottom and be careful with the cadence and how you're reeling it in, and hey, maybe let's change up to this lure and throw it over there, and you're really focused on what's going on in front of you, and then just the nature just starts to calm you. And before you know it, you haven't even thought about all those stressors that normally are constantly just pushing you down to the ground, and you just start to feel better.
Yes.
And really, it's just such an awesome transition when you get out here that you don't realize as first responders, you know, we witness fatalities or horrible collisions on these intersections, and you're constantly driving by them every day, even when you're off duty. And your mind recognizes the fact that something tragic has happened here, and it's just a constant reinforcement everywhere you go of all these stressors. So when you get out to these waters and you don't have any of those stressors, even just happening to go by you, it really helps. It really helps.
One thing I like to use nature and water for, which it sounds exactly what you're explaining, is that it lowers that fight or flight response.
Yep.
That cellular response in the body saying we need to worry, where's our shelter, where's our food, where's our whatever. Yeah. So coming from like somebody who can understand that, like people that have PTSD or that don't have it, may not understand that part physiologically, like what happens to the body. And even the person with PTSD doesn't understand that. But when they are on here on the water, they're like, oh, and they, like you said, they don't realize it, right?
They don't. And the common response I get when people come off the boat is they turn around and they just go, wow, that was really stress-free.
Yeah, that moment of decompression.
Yeah.
It's healing.
The reason why we picked this boat is we tried to create the most stress-free atmosphere possible. Relaxed, comfort if you want to sit down, if you want to stretch, if you want to just even read a book, you know, whatever somebody wants to do on this boat.
We've had that too.
Yeah, we really think this is the best platform for it.
And this is for families or individuals that are going through some things?
Both. It really, part of what I enjoy about having this open to first responders and knowing what it takes to be a first responder. I had to work 7 days a week to support my family because it's just unfortunately not a very financially strong job. And so the time off that I had, I didn't have time to go find the equipment, get my license, and do all these things if I wanted to take my kids fishing. Well, now you can just call me. You know, if you want to bring your sons or daughters fishing, or your wife, or just spend a day with your family on the water, you call me, we're going to set it up, and we're going to bring you out for free. We have all the fishing gear you need. If you want to take them tubing, we'll take you tubing, and we'll pay for your food. And it, you know, gives that first responder or warrior an opportunity to spend some quality time with their family without having to jump through a million hoops that you would normally have to jump through, other than a phone call.
And the families need healing too, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Because they're also going through this as well with the person that's dealing with.
Absolutely.
Everyone is dealing with it.
Yeah, I absolutely. But I will say the priority, and there's maybe some disagreement on this, the priority should be the warrior. The warrior has to heal himself. If the warrior doesn't heal himself, he or she is not going to be any good to the family members. You know, someone broken trying to fix something else broken is just a recipe for disaster. But if you can find the way to take care of yourself, I promise your family in turn will now fall in line. You'll start taking care of the problems that has been taking place.
It's like a snowball effect.
It really is.
Of wellness.
Absolutely.
That's great. How do people contact you? What's the process of getting on the boat other than a phone call? Or?
Sure. There's multiple ways. You can text message us. You can give us a phone call if you prefer to talk in person. You can email us. You can message us on Facebook. We have Warriors Code Fishing on Facebook and warriorscodefishing.org online that they can just click a few buttons, send us an email, ask us questions. Absolutely.
Great. How do you fund this project?
Well, right now, a lot of it has been out of our own pocket to try to fund it, but we have created and since been approved by the government our own 501c3. So Warriors Code Fishing is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we have set up some donation platforms. So anybody who wants to help us out or offset some of these costs that we're really trying to give these warriors a great day on the water, they can actually text 44321 and text the words "Go Fish," and it'll send them a quick donation link, and they can donate that way.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, great. And that's available on your social media platforms, I'm guessing?
Absolutely, or just a text message.
The text.
They can just "Go Fish" to 44321.
Okay.
It's simple.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that you'd like for everyone to know or that you guys would like to talk about?
Just that we're here for, anybody who is a warrior, and our definition of a warrior, be it a first responder, firefighter, police officer, EMS, I think nurses absolutely fall into that category. The unfortunate things we see don't just end at the scene, they get transported to somewhere else and they have to deal with it. And then veterans, this includes retired of all those categories. You're definitely worthy of connection. You're worthy of the gifts that people want to give you. A lot of times when you suffer from PTSD or you work in a line of service, it's very hard to take gratitude, or it's very hard to take what people are trying to give you because you don't oftentimes feel worthy. You're worthy of it. Come out, use our resources, let your family use our resources. You're worthy of it, they're worthy of it, and we're happy to give it to you. Whether it comes out of our pocket or through donations, it doesn't matter to us. We just want to give back.
That is amazing. They say when people need help, or I know from personal experience, we all probably do, when you need help, it is hard to ask. But as soon as you ask, you've opened up to receive.
Absolutely.
And so maybe someone might be a little apprehensive to being open to receive. Oop, fish are jumping. Use those senses.
That's right.
Then they have a place that can receive them.
Absolutely.
There's nothing to be fearful of when coming and saying, hey, I could use some of this. It's
Right.
medicine. It really is medicine.
And just know, on this boat, our goal is not to relive any experience. We don't want to talk about war stories. We don't, you can come here and say, man, I was deployed overseas, saw some bad stuff. Hey, you know what? I'm sorry that happened to you. We don't need to talk about it. I'm not here to get into the nitty gritty of the bad things that happened to you. You've lived that. You don't need to retell that story over and over again. Unfortunately, it happened. You know what? Let's just find a way to live with it. And that's what we do on this boat. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to relive it. We just want to give you a sense of peace in the moment. That's it.
Cool. Well, thank you for your work and for your service.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Really
I appreciate it.
that.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.